Thank you. It's a privilege of mine to be able to introduce our second speaker today, who's Alex Stock from Peer Marketing. Alex leads the marketing agency and brings 16 years of expertise from blue chip and SME business in sales, marketing, customer experience and senior management in both the UK and Australia. Success for Alex is seeing his customers delight in the work Peer Marketing does for them. Please welcome Alex.
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you for having me this afternoon. Now, one of the things that we often get asked when potential clients come to see us is they're looking for a silver bullet and they think that marketing somehow can deliver that. I try in my spare time, or in time generally, to do a little bit of reading, and I'm currently getting through The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, and they come up against a horrible problem, and one of the quotes that I really like in the book is, "There's no silver bullet that's going to fix that. We're going to have to use a lot of lead bullets." And I think that's a really, really good quote, because we just need to work really, really hard at business, and that doesn't matter whether it's in sales, marketing, finance, operations, or with our people. And if we can understand that, I think we're all on a really good place to understand how a really well thought through marketing strategy can support the business in getting to its success. So often when I sit in front of presentations, I get a few things out of them. You go away, you get back to your normal everyday life, and then you forget most of what was spoken about. So if there is one thing that I'd like everyone to get out of this presentation today, is that planning is absolutely everything, as long as we don't disappear up our backsides. And that's, I think, really important, that we do an appropriate amount of planning around our marketing effort, around our business effort, without losing sight of the fact that we actually have to just get on with things as well, and understand that perfect is not necessarily what we're aiming for. It's just getting good and getting better as we move forward. Right, first Mentimeter. Is it going to work?
Oh, yeah.
Fingers crossed. So the question is, how much information is needed for the marketing function to be effective? 0, the bare minimum; 10, the whole picture, of course. 5, sorry, evidently not a 0 to 10. Ooh. I have to say, I find that quite surprising on the top one, that, well, in a very good way, that people are very open to making sure that the marketing function has all the information that it needs. But what's also interesting is the gap, and maybe just ask a couple of people around the room, what information are you not giving to your marketing function in order for them to be effective? What information are they missing out on? Is it finances? Is it sales effort? One of the big struggles we often have is understanding how many leads are actually coming into our clients' businesses, which sounds really simple, but that's an ongoing struggle to actually get that information.
Are you saying they won't release that, or they can't capture that?
Bit of both.
Right.
I don't really know why they wouldn't release it, but a lot of businesses don't actually actively or effectively capture leads. And they're broad lead source as well, which is really, really important. On that point, I think we can get a little bit over-analytical. Often people will say, "Oh yeah, I saw you online, but we haven't run online ads for 2 months, so how did you see us online?" So there is sometimes disassociation, but knowing broadly how people are coming to our business is really important.
Can I ask a question on that? Sorry.
Of course you can.
How much should marketing, and this might not sound right, but how much should marketing kind of feed themselves versus being fed information?
I think it's a really good question, and there's a slide later on, and when I look at business, I look at it quite in a simple form in 4 basic areas, where you've got your people, your finance, your operations, and your marketing. So each of sales and marketing. So each of those 4 functions are responsible for the output of their own silo, if you like, but they have to talk to each other as well. And for instance, my belief is that finance and marketing are best friends, because we need to understand both sales, sales results, so revenue, but we also need to understand what proportion of that sales revenue we're spending on our marketing effort. And when I talk about marketing effort, I don't mean our Google ads and our social media and the exhibitions. I mean the entire picture of the effort that we are putting to go to market with our product or service. So, yeah, hopefully that sort of answers that. You know, you're feeding your own information for your own specialization, but you need to know what's going on from a finance, operational, and people perspective as well to be able to make better decisions. Right. So what does good look like? Got another book here for you. So Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. First, seek to understand and then to be understood. One of, I think, the most valuable things that we do as a business and where we get most insight is the discovery sessions, the audits, and the analysis of what is actually happening. So really getting a true picture of what is happening in that entire business. And often when we think about the things that marketing can affect, that can research, that can have an impact on, even that pricing structure is something that we can really struggle to get real clarity on, and why it's so important as well to understand how a business builds its pricing model for the products or service it sends out. And then the market approach as well. What are your channels to market? What are your routes to market? What's your distribution network? How do you get it out there? Is it you putting shoe leather on the pavement going to see different clients, or is it setting up a distribution channel where you ship all your product to and that goes out to 16,000 different outlets? Both obviously valid for different businesses, but massively important to understand what that is and understand what's reasonable for your business as well, and not getting caught up, especially in the likes of e-commerce, where we think it's all free and easy, where actually it's incredibly expensive and very, very difficult. And really understanding what is an effective route to market. And that really comes through this understanding of both the market and what the business has to offer. Be well planned and knowing you're doing what you're doing and why you're doing it as well. Speaking to a potential client earlier in the week, relatively new business, got a bit of funding, not spending anything externally on marketing effort apart from $2,000 a month on social media. All their sales come from B2B, and the social media they're spending on is Instagram. The question for me is, why are you spending $24,000 a year of essentially profit or margin on an Instagram account when all your sales are coming through B2B distribution? You might argue you're trying to get a little bit of consumer pull-through. There's 3,000 Instagram followers. It's not going to happen. If you think about those percentages and the drop down as you get through engagement, really, really important to know what you're doing and why you're spending that money there, and be absolutely ruthless with it. Very, very important. And use the right people. No one person can know everything. A graphic designer, an ad specialist, a strategist, a media buyer, totally different skill sets. So it's very, very important to use the right people. And believe in the execution. The execution and excellent execution can be the difference between total success and abject failure. And I think that's really important to make sure that when we're going to embark on a campaign and execution and going to market, that we do it really, really well, really, really thoroughly, and think about the messages we're sending out to the people that we want to talk to and want to react to. Knowing what to measure. And what's really, I find interesting, how easy to measure is digital marketing, do we think? Does anyone think it's really easy to measure? Really difficult to measure? Any views?
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy to measure
Yeah.
digital marketing, yeah?
If you have the right tools, obviously.
Yeah. And I think we can get a bit caught in the digital marketing because it's very binary. We can see the bounce rate, we can see the conversion rate, we can see how many emails are opened, but we also don't know human behavior. We don't understand what's happening in all those people's lives, and we don't understand necessarily all the different ways that people have come to that interaction that they've had with our business, our products and service. So it can give us a really good view on what's happening, but it is never the whole picture. And I think the danger is, especially with data that's easy to see, is that we count on it too much without trying to have a look at the nuances that surround that data. So really important to get both the quantitative and the qualitative ideas and research around what's happening in the market. So what is marketing? So Mark Ritson says, marketing strategy is where we play, how we win in the market. Tactics are how we deliver on the strategy and execute for success. Who would say that Google Ads is marketing? Okay. Who would say graphic design is marketing? Yeah. Okay. Who, part of it, yeah. Who would say that your route to market is marketing?
Sorry,
The route to market, or your distribution strategy is marketing. Who would say sales is marketing? This could be a contentious question. Is sales part of marketing? Is marketing part of sales? Okay. And the answer is it's all those things. But when we think about marketing, we'll go into this in a little bit more detail. There are 7 key areas of the marketing mix, which we'll talk about. And those sort of promotional and executional things are actually a very small part of it. And there's a lot that goes before that. When we think about the marketing planning process and strategic planning, really coming back to this idea, understand where you are today and being really clear with yourself as well. Making sure that you're being truthful, with yourself, making sure you're being objective with yourself, and understand where you want to be. And it's great to have these big, wonderful ideas, and it's great to have those visions of where you want to get to. But what's realistic? What's achievable? What can I fund? What can I do with the resources that I've got in front of me now? It's all very well me saying, right, no worries, I want to double my business over the next 2 years. Do I even have the sales resource in my business to be able to deliver that? And do I have the support within the business to deliver that? All that costs money. So it's making sure that we're very, very objectively honest with ourselves. Set the strategy. Is the strategy that we're going to set actually likely to deliver the goals we want to get to? Agree what the activity is that's likely to enable us to achieve that the strategic goals, implement it, and then measure. Measure, 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 and optimize. Measuring isn't about us all telling ourselves how wonderful we are. It's understanding what's going really well, what's not going so well, and what's just middling along, and understanding what we need to dial up, dial down, and stop. So when it comes to strategy, sorry, this is almost illegible. Strategy is about planning. It's large scale. It's about the why, often quite difficult to copy, and it's a long time frame. So think about strategic plans that last for 3, 4, or 5 years with some tweaks along the way. In terms of tactics, it's all about the doing. It's quite small scale. It's the how. It's very easy to copy, and it's a short time frame. And I think often where we get initially engaged or questions happen on the tactical side, whereas if you don't have that strategic thinking, you can spend a lot of money on that doing and actually not getting anywhere because it's not aligned to a business strategy. This is one of my favorite images, and it's trying to explain what strategy is. So this person up in the top left needs to get to point X. So they could go over the mountains, they could go through the desert, or they could go down the stream. All have got their pros and cons, I suppose, but they're going to take the strategy of the river because it's relatively quick. The tactic is they're going to use a boat. They could use a raft, they could swim, they could use a life ring. Maybe it's shallow and they could paddle all the way down, but they're not. They're going to use a boat. And that is the tactic they're going to use to get from point Y to point X. And I think it's a really nice way of just simply defining the difference between strategic thinking and then the tactic we need to execute it. Does anybody have any questions or comments on what marketing is and the strategic approach we should all take to marketing and connecting with our business? I'll move on to the 7 Ps. Can anyone tell me what the 7 Ps of marketing are?
Planning.
Price, position, promotion, position.
Had that. Yeah, not bad. Place, yeah.
People.
People, yeah. The last 2 are kind of a bit difficult, I think. Physical evidence, which is kind of brand, and process as well. But yeah, very good. So when we think about product in itself is a big and complex area. I mean, there's a whole career in product management. So one of the 7 Ps of marketing, thinking about what is your product. And I like the difference between Qantas and Virgin. Ultimately, they are taking you from Melbourne to Sydney. You buy your ticket, you get on the aeroplane, they give you a horrible cup of coffee, and you turn up at your destination safely. That is broadly what you're buying. Though with Qantas, you're going to get your free bag. You might even get a glass of wine. I'm not sure if they even do this. I haven't flown very much post-COVID. Get your glass of wine in the evening. You're going to get a hot meal. If you go internationally, you're going to get your movies. You're going to get your priority boarding if you're on the Qantas frequent flyer program. And the point is that the actual product you're buying is a plane ticket. By augmenting that with additional services, you can actually add much more delight to your customers. Or you can just go really cheap and you go Jetstar and you can turn up, you can pay $49, you don't get a bag, you don't choose your seat, you don't get a lounge, but you know you're still going to get A to B safely and on time, mainly. I think Qantas are back up on the safest airline in the world now, so I think, you know, well, anyway, let's not get into a Qantas bashing just yet. So understanding, is your product a commodity? Has it got good market acceptance? Is the market crowded? Is it a very busy market for your product? What's the supply and demand? Is it a niche product? Is it a new product in a new category, which is a complete nightmare? I mean, this is like sort of early stage startup stuff where you're not only trying to sell the product, but you're actually trying to sell the category as well. Very, very difficult thing. And then the differentiation within that product as well. Place. For me, place is everything. Your distribution, your route to market is absolutely vital. Making sure you know where it's going to go and how it's going to get there. E-commerce and the web is just a platform. That doesn't mean that is the only place you can spruik, sell, and promote your product. And new product, as I said before, to a new channel can be very, very challenging. If you think about a business that sells thousands and thousands of litres of apple juice to Coles, Woolies and IGA. If they bring out an orange juice, fantastic. They've already got a ready-made channel. If they didn't have that channel already and they brought out a pear juice, well, how the hell are they going to get their pear juice to market? And actually there can be a bias, I think, within businesses to bring more and more product and service to market rather than actually nailing their route to market first. Very, very important. Price. So making sure we understand how that we're actually building our price. Is it cost plus? Is it market determined? I believe the price of iron ore is the price of iron ore, and your BHPs, your Rios, your Fortescues are kind of at the behest of the market. They can't really change that. It's the quality of the stuff that's coming out of their mines that determines how many dollars they get in. Value pricing as well. So this is especially with service businesses. So moving away from hourly pricing and actually understanding what the service is worth to the business that you're selling it to and getting them to pay appropriately for that. You've got freemium, so this is where you've got services like Spotify, where you can have a free account, but you've got to listen to ads, and then you can pay to get the ads off. Subscription models, of course, software as a service is a massive part of that now, and then the add-ons, so that's the Jetstar. Buy your ticket, then your seat, then your meal, then your movie, then your baggage. We spoke a little bit about the promotional side of things, the Google Ads, the Instagram, advertising above the line. 3 broad areas of promotional. Can anyone tell me any examples of owned marketing promotion? Emails, yep. Anything else? SEO. Yeah, content, yes. It depends if it's on page, off page, yeah, absolutely.
Giving stuff away be owned?
Sorry?
Giving stuff away, would that be owned marketing? Like
So merchandise, yeah, you could. I suppose you get into like semantics of whether you paid for it or not, but yes, yeah, you could do that, yeah, merchandise. And then earned side of things. Yeah, referrals are a brilliant example of that. So the earned is, your referrals, your rewards, your Google reviews, all that kind of stuff, testimonials from clients as well, where you've worked really hard and in return you get promotional effort back. And then paid, I think that's probably the maybe slightly easier and an obvious one. Any examples of paid? Google Ads, billboards, influencers, yeah, ambassadors, yeah.
Which is the most valuable of those three?
Probably earned, yeah. Yeah, I reckon earned. Getting the balance right is really important as well. You can spend a lot of money for no outcome if you're not careful. And then the physical evidence. So do you look and appear in the way that you want your business to be perceived? So in terms of portraying the way you look, and a couple of years ago we did some work for a high-end commercial builder. And he came to us and he said, right, I need help with my marketing. I don't want a new website, I don't want a new brand, but tell me what I need to do. So we went away 4 to 6 weeks and we did a piece of strategic work for Steve and his business. Presented the strategy, came back and said, you know what, we need a new brand, we need a new website. So fully on board with that, went through the whole process, a few tweaks to his brand. So it wasn't a rebrand, it was an extension, and because he didn't want to spend all the money on changing all the hoardings that he had around his building sites and all the expense that goes with that. During that process, when they had the business cards produced, they came back to the office and we opened the box and they hadn't been cut right. They'd got little, the guillotine was not sharp. I opened the box up, presented to them and said, Steve, look, really sorry, this has happened. We're going to get them reprinted, but do you want to keep these? He turned around and said, how's that going to look if I go into a client, I claim I'm a high-end builder with an absolutely impeccable eye for the finish, and I hand them a business card, and it's all fluffy and badly cut around the edges. And that, for me, is just the perfect example of that brand alignment and physical evidence and why it's so important, because you're not doing what you say you're going to do. Process. Make sure you know when you're winning. Understand what both the leading and the lagging KPIs are. I think that's a really important thing to understand. How do we get things done? How do we try new initiatives as well? There's some broad splits of marketing expenditure that might say you spend 80% on the stuff that you know works, and then maybe 20% on trying new initiatives, because otherwise you don't get the opportunity to try, fail, try, success, and then build that the rest of the 80% to know what works. And then the controls as well, KPIs, digital marketing stats, really important, but also customer feedback as well. So I promised Tom that the content engine would appear in this presentation. My point.
You're stressing the whole time.
My point is here, I think there are at least 4 businesses who would say we're in marketing. We all do completely different things. And my point here is that having the right people doing the right thing is massively important. And it takes a team to deliver a marketing program. It's not about one person, and it's not about one discipline. And having the right people in the right roles is vitally important. So I think it can be, we see, especially in the, not the micro businesses, but in the small businesses who are maybe sort of the $5 to $20 million turnover, the PA or the executive assistant, they take care of marketing. And often we speak to them and they're completely out of their depth. They know they're out of their depth. They've been asked to do it, but actually they really need that support. And they need that support from professional businesses that can say, right, this is what you should be doing, this is why you should be doing it, and these are the skills that you need to learn, and these are the skills that you need to outsource as well. How am I doing on time, by the way?
You are doing well. You've got 20 minutes.
Excellent. So connection to business strategy. I mentioned this earlier, and I'm a really firm believer that if marketing is not fully aligned with your business strategy, you're in trouble. And really trying to keep it quite simple in terms of your business is broadly 4 pillars. I mean, there'll be some debate around, maybe you can split it into 5 or 6, but understanding that we've got the right people, we know what the operational side of the business is, it's financed in an appropriate way, and that the sales and marketing effort know what they're doing, we've got a really good chance to have a successful business. And all these are highly professional segments within a business and need to be treated so. And in the same way, in finance, you've got AP, you've got AI, you've got tax accounting, you've got management accounting, very, very different functions within that. Same with sales and marketing, same with operations, and same with the HR. Talent acquisition is very different to training. So just really understanding that marketing very much the same. So really getting that clear understanding in our marketing effort, what are we trying to achieve? Is it just building brand awareness? Is it trying to get new customers? Is it trying to get repeat customers and hold them within our business, become advocates, and then, of course, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the earned promotional side of things, those testimonials and those referrals, which from a marketing perspective is very, very cheap. I mean, I know from our perspective, a new customer costs us about $3,000 to get in the door. A repeat customer costs about $85. The difference is huge. And actually really being able to focus on those different parts of the marketing mix. We were saying earlier, you can spend a lot of money on marketing, promoting your company, actually doing it really sensibly. And one of the things that we deal with a lot is, okay, well, we want to get more leads. Well, why don't you convert more leads instead? Why don't you retain more customers instead? Because those are actually the cheaper things to do, rather than trying to fill the top of the bucket. And then the other thing might just be social license. So do you need to tell people what you're doing because you're in an extractive industry or you're in a disruptive industry to the people around you? So it's almost that PR, it's the communication and engaging those local people in what you're doing in your business and in your enterprise. One of the things that we often come up against is technicality. And again, reading 4 Disciplines of Execution by Sean Covey, who is Stephen Covey's son. Has anyone read this book, 4 Disciplines? Excellent. And it's all about getting out the whirlwind, focusing on your wildly important goals, and understanding that actually you can only really focus and do really well at 1 or 2 things at once to what he calls winning the war. I really like the example he gives in the book, which is JFK's speech about going to the moon. That's a pretty technical thing to do, but he needed to get across what needed to be done and the 3 key areas they needed to focus on, which were propulsion, so we need to get the rocket up there, life support, we need to keep the astronauts alive, and navigation, we need to know where the moon is and we need to know where the Earth is to get them back. And for me, I think it's a really nice example and a strong example of where even the most technical things that you might do as a business can be boiled down into very, very simple concepts for people. One of my, I suppose, favourite examples alongside this is the likes of the Australian Financial Review or the Financial Times is written so a 12-year-old can understand the language. Not necessarily the context, but the language. And that's because we're all busy. FR or a Financial Times, and we look at it, we might have 5, 10, 15 minutes just to flick through it and get a gist of what's going on. And this comes back again to communicating past the technical, simplifying and ensuring that we can get our message across very, very effectively, very, very simply, no jargon. So, campaigns are shite on their own. So, this might be a little bit contentious, especially to a couple of people in the room. The number of times we get asked for the silver bullet, for the campaign that's going to change everything. Never does. Of course it never does. Normally, because the route to market isn't sorted out. I've got to go back to my reading list again. You mentioned Warren Buffett. The guy that trained Warren Buffett was a guy called Benjamin Graham. Scottish guy, moved over to the US, became a Stanford professor and taught Warren Buffett everything he knows about investing. In his book, there's a lovely quote about financial advisors, but I think it's got a lot of relevance here. And it's when the investor demands more than an average return on his money, or when his advisor undertakes to do better for him, that the question arises whether more is being asked and promised than is likely to be delivered. There are simple statistics that say a campaign on its own is probably not going to work. You've got to get the basics right. It's got to be a good product. You have the greatest product in the world, but if you haven't nailed the route to market, it's going nowhere. Has it got the right price? That doesn't mean it's got to be cheap. It doesn't mean it's got to be expensive. It means the price has got to be right. A comprehensive promotional campaign is not a one-off 6-week sugar hit for $1,000, $10,000 or $100,000 on Facebook. Not going to work, possibly. Get the branding right, have the right people doing the right things, and have the process and controls in place. They must be in place. One of the things that we talk about a lot is the marketing funnel and understanding where that activity sits. So at the top, where you go from awareness and then into consideration and then into conversion and then only into loyalty and advocacy when you're buying again. The reality is these funnels should be much, much tighter to the bottom. That conversion into loyalty and advocacy is absolutely tiny. So we're moving from really broad, untargeted, almost wasteful, but you never build a brand without wasting anything, so that's okay as well, but understanding that's what you're doing. Moving into a more targeted people who've shown interest, and then getting the sale and repeating the sale. And this is where digital actually works really, really well on the remarketing and targeting to people that have already shown interest. So that's a really powerful thing that you can do very effectively on digital marketing that 20, 25 years ago, you just couldn't really do because it was all in the Herald Sun and you just took out lots of ads, whether it's for houses or furniture or whatever it might have been. And to put a bit of numbers and context around this, we think that the cost of acquisition of a customer, and this is cheap, by the way, you spend $1,000, you get 10 customers, your cost of acquisition is $100. And going back to the digital side of things and being able to really understand binary figures, the likes of Shopify, who publish all their global stats, it's wonderful. So your average conversion rate, it might even be below 2% now. It's a 1.9 to 2%, meaning every 100 visitors to the website, 2 people are going to buy. When you go upper level onto Facebook, when you look at your click-through rates and engagement rates, I'm going to get this horribly wrong, Jacinta, but engagement rates on Instagram, about 0.9% now. So you could call that 1%. So what that means is you move through this marketing funnel from brand awareness, where you're spending a lot of money, through to customer acquisition and conversion. Some of these examples are, as I said, from Shopify. If you're selling a product at $63.50 online, with a margin of 45%, you're getting $28 back. You spent $100 getting the customer, so you've lost $72, so you've got to sell it 4 times before you even get profitable. If it's a 6-month cycle on the purchase, 2 years till you get profitable. And I think that misunderstanding of cash burn, especially on new businesses, or the reality of cost per acquisition and no onward recommendation, this puts it in, well, I say black and white, black and red, is actually customer acquisition is expensive and you need to make sure that you can retain and drive value out of that customer. So, when it works. I'm going to move on to a couple of case studies and examples here. I'm going to ask you how I'm going for time again, just so I don't...
10 minutes.
10 minutes, excellent. So, when it works really well is when we have stopped and we have thought. Piece of work that we did with TQ Solutions, they are a talent acquisition consultancy firm. Gareth and Jill came to us and said, right, we need to sit down and we need to have a think about our business. So we sat in the cluster in the city here for 3 hours. They had 2 businesses at the time. We went through, we did the 7 Ps of marketing, we did SWOT analysis, we did a number of other exercises to really sort of dig in to who their ideal customer was and what the services were that they wanted to take to that client. 3 hours finished, Gareth sat back in his chair and said, I need to restructure my business. And for us, that is just the perfect outcome. Not because he had to restructure his business, but the discussion we were having was not about sticking some Google ads up, doing a LinkedIn campaign, and you need to get your email marketing sorted. It was how are you going to structure and sell and take your product and service to market as a business. And that, for us, is perfect. Medicon Call, another example. So Medicon Call were bought by Healthcare Australia. Obviously, Healthcare Australia, massive Australian business, very much focused on providing nursing staff to hospitals around Australia. Medicon Call provide locum doctors to hospitals, GP clinics around Australia as well. They came to us and they'd just been purchased, and there's a few things they needed to do. One, Healthcare Australia just got rid of their entire marketing department, cost cutting. Why marketing is the first place to go is just bizarre. You either have got an effective marketing department or you don't. So anyway, but it gets cut pretty quickly. And this started with audit again. So understand where we are, develop a strategy. We actually had to then bring their old brand in line with the Healthcare Australia brand without taking all the brand equity out of what they had. So the jumping figure has been carried across and then brought it into the style of Healthcare Australia with the purple. Redevelop the website, develop marketing program, and also the collateral design. But as you can see, 1, 2, 3, the first 3 out of there are all strategic pieces, and then moving into that, the actual executing of that ongoing. Do quite a bit of work with builders. Builders are wonderful clients. We love them. I think they're just used to outsourcing. So they know, they just turn up and they say, we need this done. They give it to the experts. They don't question the plumber on whether he's putting the right piping in. He just knows they're doing a good job, which is great for us. And again, Mick came to us and he said, I need help with my marketing, which is just the perfect question. So start off with strategy, and then it moves in to, well, what do you want to look like? Why do you want to look like that? Previously, he was called 2Con Construction or 2Con Builders, and his logo was a tree. I mean, I don't know what either of those things mean, but there we go, that's where he'd got to. And he does very, very high-end architectural builds. So the disconnect on that physical evidence from what his business offered and where he wanted to be was huge. So being able to take him on that journey and actually explain to him why he needed to do things differently and how he needed to do things was a really good example of how we use strategic thinking, identifying the gap between where we are and where we want to be. One of my favourite pieces of output work that we've ever done is the handmade wooden box. So anyone that's bought a new house would have had a folder, and in it is your cooktop, your air conditioning, all that kind of stuff. When you just spent $1.5 million on the build, you probably don't want a 45-cent ring binder from Officeworks. So we went to Mick, I say we, Georgia, our amazing creative, went to Mick and said, I think what we need to do is we need to take some timber from your builds, and we need to build a box, a handmade box, and put all that stuff in there. So it can sit on your shelf. We actually stamp the address of the property on there as well. So it's a really nice keepsake. And again, it comes back, this is the importance of brand, physical evidence, proving what you say you're going to do. Caseware, Rob, I think you're aware of Caseware, and Craig. Caseware are a really interesting business. They do audit software. I don't think those two things have ever been said before. They do audit software, and Kylie works very closely with them as well. Caseware came to us and they said, right, we're in a real muddle. Our website does not reflect what we do anymore. Moving to software as a service. And we actually started with our old brand and redesigned the entire website, but it started from a thing called user experience design. Is anyone aware of user experience design? It all comes from the place of what does the person going to that website want and need. If you've ever analysed your website data, you've probably got 3 or 4 pages that take 80 to 90% of your traffic. Despite that, people still want 355 different options of where people can go on their website. It's 3 or 4 pages, and that's it. This project actually then developed as Caseware were bought internationally and rebranded. So that was a reskinning job for us, but on the same idea and a really good proof of when you've got good UX, it actually doesn't matter what graphic design you put on top of it, it's going to work because it was really well thought out in the first place. I think this is, last one. So campaigns aren't always shite. This was a really nice example of Marshall speakers and headphones, where what we needed to do was support JB Hi-Fi, who are their route to market, so they know exactly where the product's going to go, through digital campaign over the holiday selling season, which really enabled us to use a lot of collateral that was all dictated to us by the holding company in Sweden, putting up the digital campaign, running that with a really healthy budget, which saw some fantastic awareness driven. I think the playthroughs on YouTube were 30-odd%. It's in there somewhere, 30-odd% above what they normally are, and some really good sell-through to JB Hi-Fi. But the point is they were right product, right price, with a really good distribution network. So people could actually buy very easily what they were putting into market. So regardless of all that, the one takeout for today is planning is everything. You've got a really well-planned, thought-through marketing strategy and marketing plan, you're going to be okay. And because I'm here to give, for everybody here, this is, if you want to get your phones out and scan the QR code, there is a planning document which will allow you to step through each part of the marketing planning process, top level. So yeah, you can download that as a PDF and use at your leisure.
Thank you.
Can I ask one?
No, because
Or is that separate?
no.
You asked, Robert, you just said this is the question.
Sorry.
Now,
Oh,
because Rob's ruined the no. Should anybody wish to have a printed version of the marketing planning guide, I do have a box of them down here, which you're more than welcome to take one away, or you can just use the PDF or print it out at your office as you wish. Thank you.
I found that wonderfully insightful,
Thank you.
and it just makes me think. I don't know about you guys, but I'm all about lead generation, not so much about the marketing piece, and I just see